All right, Ripley, ready to start?
I'm ready to start. Xavier, nice to meet you. I'm Ripley. So today we are going to be going over a PPL mock oral exam. We're going to be going over about 8 different tasks. We're going to go over pilot qualifications, airworthiness requirements, weather, national airspace, performance limitations, operations of systems, and human factors. So 7, sorry. When are you ready to start?
Shit, I'm kind of nervous. No, I'm ready.
All right. So, first thing I'm going to have to ask you is what documents are required to be on hand while operating an aircraft?
Yep. So you need your government photo issue ID. You need as a private pilot, you need well, is this for a private pilot or for a student pilot?
We'll start off with private pilot.
Private pilot, yeah. So private pilot certificate and a third class medical is the minimum.
At least a third class medical.
Mhm.
And if you were a student pilot still, what else would you need?
Logbook.
Logbook endorsements. Okay, cool. So, what are your limitations as a student pilot?
As a student pilot, you cannot carry passengers. You cannot fly for hire. You cannot fly without your endorsements. Fly solo without your endorsements.
Okay. What are the how do I put this? VFR minimum requirements for a student pilot.
Oh yeah, I remember you asked me this last time. I didn't remember. I want to say I do not know.
It is 3 statute mile visibility during the day and 5 at night.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's say that you did get your private pilot's license. What limitations apply to you as a private pilot?
Yeah. So I can't fly for hire. I cannot fly IFR. Cannot fly in Class Alpha airspace. Um,
Let's say that you wanted to take up your friends or family up on a flight.
yep.
Would it be okay if your dad just decided to pay for gas, pay for the plane,
No.
everything
So
like
we
that?
have to split the pro rata share.
Okay,
Yep.
so everybody has to pay evenly?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So what?
Either everyone has to pay evenly, or I have to pay
Pay
for
for
the
it
entire
all?
flight.
Gotcha. Cool. So what are the differences between a second, and third class medical?
Yeah, so first class is you can fly for hire carrying passengers. Second class, you can fly for hire, just not your ATP. And then third class is private, so recreational use.
Cool. Yep. And if you have a first class medical and you are under the age of 40, how long is that good for?
12 calendar months,
And if you're over the age of 40?
6 calendar months.
Cool. What is a flight review?
A flight review is essentially the way that a private pilot stays current. So the legal way of staying current, it's every 24 calendar months, unless you get a new rating, then it resets. And there's 1 hour of ground, 2 hour flight, and you essentially just go up and they test you on maneuvers
Okay,
to make sure
cool.
you're current.
Cool. And then, so being current is very important. Another thing is being proficient. What is the difference between being current and proficient in an airplane?
Yeah, so the difference, I don't know, I'm smiling. The difference between current and proficient is the legal way and then the personal way. So the personal
Okay.
minimums is proficiency versus currency is the legal. I'm prefer staying proficient because current is less proficient in my opinion
Okay, cool.
for me.
What are the currency requirements for carrying passengers?
Yep. So during a day VFR flight, it's every 90 days you have to do 3 landings. Um, night it is 3 landings. They just have to be full stop.
Okay, yep, so 3 takeoffs and landings.
Takeoffs
They
and
can be
landings.
taken during the day or night, but if they're at night, they have to be full stop. Very good.
Yep.
They won't ask you this, but will you have any proficiency requirements for yourself
I do.
when carrying passengers? What are those?
It's within 12 days. I
12
put down.
days. Okay. Why did you put 12 days specifically?
Because since flying, the most I've been off is 10 days without flying, and
Okay.
there have been things that I needed to work on due to that, due to those many days off. So I do 12
Gotcha. Cool. Well, very good. I mean, it's good that you know your minimums and stuff. That's awesome.
for sure, which everyone should have their minimums written down for everything. So on a piece of notebook paper and just keep it in your flight bag.
Yep, 100%. So, what documents must be in the aircraft before you take off?
Yeah, so we use airworthiness, registration, and then if you're flying international, radio license, operating limitations, but we use a POH, pilot operating handbook, and the weight and balance for that specific aircraft
Cool. And where can you find the weight and balance in an aircraft?
in the POH.
Cool. So, when does the registration of an aircraft expire?
7 years.
7 years. Very cool. Yep. So, as a private pilot, do you need to have your logbook in the aircraft with you?
No,
Do you have to log all your flight hours as a private
you
pilot?
do not. You only need your logbook when you are doing endorsements and your flight review.
Okay, cool. What are the what are the differences between category, class, and type of aircraft?
Yeah, so category is going to be the different types of airplane. So we have, or not different types of airplanes, excuse me, the different types of aircraft.
Okay.
So airplane, glider, rotorcraft, hot air balloon. Those are the big four. And then we also have for class, that's going to be single engine land, multi-engine land, single engine sea, multi-engine sea. And then type of aircraft, we have turbojet or greater than 12,500 pounds.
Awesome. Yeah, word for word. And do you know where in the FAR end you can find these categories and types of aircrafts? You don't have to find it for me. I'm just curious if you know what the
I don't think
FAR
so.
number is.
No, I don't.
It's FAR 61.5. But cool. I mean, you got that word for word, so that's awesome. It's good to know that you're studying for your role because it's very important. Yeah.
I did study for it. I'm done
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, you're done now. Yep. But yeah. I mean, no wonder you passed so quickly, right? So, cool. So let's move on to airworthiness requirements. Um,
Oh my gosh. Okay.
so, when does an airworthiness certificate expire?
It doesn't expire as long as the aircraft is maintained and up to date. Yeah, well, all the maintenance is up to date. There you go.
Okay,
So all the maintenance is up to date and it's following all of the ADs.
cool. Yep. So, who is responsible for determining the aircraft is maintained and in an airworthy condition?
Maintained is the owner, and able to fly is the pilot.
The pilot in command. Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm assuming that you know the required inspection for the aircraft. What is the acronym that we use?
We use Aviates. I'll run
Cool.
through it super quickly.
Okay.
Annual 12 calendar months VOR. Every 30 every 30 days. If you're flying IFR, you have to check it. 100-hour inspection if the aircraft is for hire. Uh, altimeter slash pedostatic system, transponder, and those both need to be checked every 24 calendar months. And then the ELT is every 12 calendar months. 50% of its battery life or an hour of cumulative use, and safety service bulletin.
Okay, cool. So let's say that you are not flying via IFR at all. You don't have your IFR rating for your VOR. Do you still need to check your VOR every 30 days?
No.
When? How often do you have to check it?
I would just say 24 calendar months.
24 calendar months.
If it's with the altimeter, I actually don't know.
So it wouldn't be part of the annual inspection?
It may be, but I don't know exactly the specific things that are checked during an annual inspection.
Okay. The VOR is checked in the annual inspection, so it'd be every 12 calendar months.
Okay.
So can you overfly an annual or 100-hour inspection?
You can fly over both. Yeah. You just need a special permit. For the 100-hour, it has to be within 10 hours, and you have to be flying to the mechanic to get it checked. And then the annual you just need the special permit from Flight Standard District Office.
Okay, yep. So you go to the FSDO or the Flight Standard District Office to get your permit.
Yep.
Cool. So what is an ELT?
See, ELT is an electric locator transmitter.
Okay.
And that is essentially if the plane crashes down, it emits a signal 121.5, and it essentially becomes a big red dot on the radar, and it allows people to see where someone crashed.
Okay. Cool. Nice. So let's say that you have your own plane and you have your private pilot's license and you are about to go up. You're doing your pre-departure checklist, and you notice that your ELT isn't armed. And when you attempt to arm it, you can see that it is clearly just not working. Are you able to still fly the plane? What is your next course of action?
Yep. So first thing I would do is check if I have a KOEL, which I do. At least we do. We check the KOEL. If it's not in there, I would check the Eight Tomato Flames, which I'm pretty sure it's both in there. But technically, you do not need an ELT if you're staying within 50 nautical miles of your home airport. But I would want to be proficient, and I would just not fly the plane. So me personally, I would not fly.
Okay. Cool. So, where can you go to check and make sure that your aircraft or airplane is up to date with all of the airworthiness directives?
Yep. So you just go, if you go on Safari specifically. No, I'm just kidding. You can go on any search web, and you just type in airworthiness directives FAA. The first link that pops up is going to be, it's going to take you to the FAA filter website, and you put in the make, model, type of aircraft, stuff like that.
All right, very specific. Awesome. Doing great. You ready to move on to weather?
Is that, yeah, already. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. So, let's say that your iPad is dead. You don't have access to ForeFlight.
Oof.
Very tough. Still, I would debate not flying without my iPad, but you really want to go up, you're ready. Where would you go to check the weather if you don't have ForeFlight?
Yeah, so normally I always call flight service, 1-800 weather briefing.
Okay.
And I do a standard or an outlook briefing. So those are my main one, and I normally don't fly without that. I also could check the ASOS, just call them for the METAR. I can look at aviationweather.gov. I don't do that as often, but I could check that. I could check the civilian weather app as well. I kind of vaguely look at it just to see what they're predicting versus what I have written down from the weather briefer.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So let's say that ForeFlight is working. You click on the airport that you are on, and you can see that there is a METAR for your airport. What is a METAR?
It is a weather report that is every hour. I can't remember what METAR stands for. Meteorological.
Aviation Routine Weather Report. It doesn't really make sense, but
Nah.
that's what it is.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, it's just a basic weather report. There's two different kinds. There's a routine and there's a special METAR. The special METAR, or well, the routine METAR is every hour, issued every hour, valid for 1 hour. The special METAR is essentially when the METAR is no longer valid or correct, and it has to be adjusted.
Okay, cool.
You're gonna have me read a METAR?
Yeah, can you come read this METAR for me?
He's fine.
So, I will show it on the screen up there, but would you mind just reading what this METAR stands for?
Yeah, so KVRB On the 10th at 20:53 Zulu, winds are at 180, 17 gusting 23. 2.5 statute mile visibility, light thunderstorm rain, few clouds at 1500, scatter 6500, broken at 9500, temperature 28, dew point 25, altimeter 2983. Remarks they have a precipitation discriminator, lightning distant west and northwest. Rain began at 6 past the hour and at 19 past the hour began at 50 past the hour. Thunderstorms began 37 past the hour, ended at 52 past the hour, began at 53 past the hour. Sea level pressure is 99, and precipitation, the amount of precipitation is 0.04 and 6004. That is the
These are the binary codes that just kind of give the explanation of, or kind of just the number of the tracking number of the METAR. So that's, yeah, that was a lot more detail than I needed, but that was perfect. I do have just one question. What is the dew point spread on this METAR?
I don't know. 25, 26, 27, 28, 3.
3. Yep, awesome. So that is a pretty tricky METAR, but that was well done. So we'll make sure that that is in the video so that they can see it as well. I took a screenshot of it.
Yeah.
So, awesome. I'm not going to make you read through a TAF as well, but I know that you know what a TAF is.
What's a TAF?
What is a TAF? Okay, sure. I'll ask you for it. What's a TAF?
Terminal aerodome forecast is essentially a forecast of the weather. It's issued every 6 hours, valid for 24 hours.
Okay.
And there's 3 different types: routine, amended, and corrected.
Is corrected a type of TAF?
It is. It
Are you
doesn't
sure?
say it in the packet, but it is.
Are you sure there's only not just 2?
There's
Okay.
3. I've looked it up.
Okay. Cool. Really quickly, what is a pilot report in one sentence?
It's a PIREP. Yes.
Oh, whoops. What is a PIREP? It's a pilot report. Yep. My bad. I accidentally answered my own question. Cool. So, what is a surface analysis chart?
It is a chart with fronts and areas of equal pressure.
Okay.
It's a pilot report. It's a PIREP. There's 2 different types of PIREPs, by the way.
Yeah, what are the 2 different types
UA
of PIREPs?
and UUA.
Okay.
UUA is urgent PIREP, and UA is just a routine PIREP.
Okay.
There are some funny PIREPs out there I've seen. There was one that said that it was stupid. It said turbulent, mighty.
Winds? Oh, it was just mighty turbulence?
Mighty turbulence, but it said turbulent, mighty.
That's funny. That's strange.
Yeah, a lot of pilots mess around.
Okay, so you said what a surface analysis chart is. How often is it issued and how long is it valid for?
Issued every 8 hours. No, issued 8 times a day, valid for 6 hours.
Is it 6 hours? 24 divided by 8.
I don't think it's math though. I don't think it's correct on. It's
Well, if it's valid for 6 hours and if it's current for 6
right,
hours and
but
there's
I'm not
8
trying
of
to
them.
say that it's math though. I know 8 times 6 is 24, but
If it was math though, and there were 8 of them a day, how long would they be valid for?
3 hours.
Yep, awesome. So a surface analysis chart is issued 8 times daily and it is valid for 3 hours. So,
I didn't know that.
looking at this surface analysis chart, let's see, what is this line, this curved line in the middle there?
Stationary front.
Stationary front. Okay, what is a stationary front?
It's areas of a warm front and a cold front equal and kind of just smashing each other.
Okay, and what kind of weather can we look for in a stationary front?
Variable weather. There could be bad weather and good weather. It's variable. There's not. That's not normally a question, but
Okay. What is this four-digit number here?
that is the sea level pressure.
Okay. Okay. Um, what about this gray one right here?
I do not know.
It's the altimeter setting.
Setting.
Okay, so what are these gray lines all over
Those
here?
are isobars.
Isobars. And what's an isobar?
It's an area of equal pressure.
Okay. And what happens if the isobars are closer together, kind of like where they are right here?
You're gonna have higher winds, more likely to have wind shear.
Okay, cool. What's this purple line right here?
That is an occluded front.
Okay. And what kind of weather can be expected in a occluded front?
Very bad weather. So you're looking at thunderstorms, convective segments.
Gotcha. Okay. And what about this yellow line right here?
It's a trough.
What's a trough?
It's an area of low pressure.
Okay. And this
I
big
just coughed in that thing.
big blue H?
That is an area of high pressure.
Okay. And what kind of weather can be expected with high pressure?
People say fair weather, but we're looking at like stable air.
Okay. Cool. So stable weather. Can we go into a little bit more depth on stable air? What is stable air? What can you find with stable air?
I don't know what is stable air, but I know the characteristics of stable air.
Okay. So stable air is just air that is not unstable. What are the so what are the characteristics of stable air?
Yeah, characteristics of stable air. You're gonna have stratiform clouds.
Okay.
I can't take you seriously sometimes. Sorry, redo that. Can you ask me the question again?
If you ever say that to your DPE, I don't know if they'd pass you on that one.
Cut that out. Let's go ahead and ask again. What is stable?
So
what characteristics
what are the characteristics of stable air?
So the characteristics of stable air, you're gonna have stratiform clouds.
Okay.
We're gonna have poor visibility. We're gonna have smooth air and steady precipitation.
Okay. Give me one. Okay. So then what? How about the opposite? What will you find with an unstable air? Yep.
Yeah. So unstable air, you're going to have cumulus clouds, good visibility. We're gonna have showery precipitation and more turbulent air.
Okay.
So rough air.
Okay. And what did you say about the visibility?
Good visibility.
Good visibility. Okay. What is an airmet?
An airmet is a basic weather report, mostly used for VFR pilots and recreational pilots. There are three hazards. We have Sierra, Tango, and Zulu. Tango is turbulence. Sierra is IFR conditions, and then Zulu is freezing or icing conditions, and then it's valid for
Nope.
6. It's valid for 6 hours.
Okay. Cool. So what is a SIGMET?
A SIGMET is severe weather non-associated with thunderstorms. So two examples of that: dust storms or volcanic ash.
Okay. When is it scheduled?
It's random.
Random. And how long is it valid for?
4 hours.
Cool. Do you know what a SIGMET stands for?
No.
Significant meteorological information. I don't think I pronounced that correctly. Cool. And then really quickly, a convective SIGMET.
Yeah, convective SIGMET. It's severe weather associated with thunderstorms. So you're looking at lightning, 3/4 the diameter of hail, larger than 3/4 hail, and then it's surface winds greater than 50 knots.
Cool. And what does convective SIGMET stand for?
I don't know.
It's convective, significant meteorological information.
Okay.
Cool. So
I hope. Okay.
nice. So what is the standard temperature and pressure levels for sea level?
299 and 15 degrees Celsius.
Cool. What are the characteristics of low pressure?
Low pressure is upward and inward, counterclockwise.
Okay, and what kind of weather will you get with that?
Uh, Bad weather. You're looking at thunderstorms. That kind of weather.
Okay, and is it going to be warmer or cooler temperatures?
Cooler. No, warmer.
Warmer temperatures.
Moist air.
So high humidity
Hot.
or low humidity?
High humidity. Hot, warm, moist air.
Okay, cool. So what is the composition of the atmosphere?
78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and then 1% other.
Nice. Yeah, bang on. Cool. So what is a lapse rate?
The lapse rate is the temperature decrease as altitude increase, and the standard lapse rate is for every 2 degrees Celsius is 1,000 feet.
Yep, so temperature and pressure change with altitude. Cool.
Yeah.
Skip over these. Yeah, so let's say that you're flying and you see a thunderstorm. What are the three stages of a thunderstorm?
So we have the cumulus stage, which is going to be updrafts. We have the mature stage, which is going to be downdraft and updraft, mostly downdraft. Also could cause microbursts. And we have the dissipating phase.
Okay, so you mentioned microbursts. What is that? What's a microburst?
That's when um, essentially there is a burst of downdraft that have a speed up to 6,000 feet per minute.
Okay, cool. And then you said what's the last stage?
Dissipating.
Did you say that already?
I did. We had a little hiccup there. The camera fell, but we're good.
Yep, so let me see. All right, so what causes clouds to form?
Rising air and visible sufficient moisture.
Okay. And that just makes a cloud.
Yeah.
Anything else?
You need dust and stuff in the air.
You need dust in the air?
You do.
Okay. Not necessarily a necessity of dust, but
Debris.
or maybe. So let's go over fog real quickly. What is advection fog?
Advection fog is a warm surface going or warm air going over a cold surface.
Cool. What is upslope fog?
Upslope fog is essentially visible moisture being pulled up a mountain and going up a slope, creating fog.
Yep, so when moist, stable air goes up like the landmass like that and then becomes saturated. Cool. And then steam fog?
Steam fog is when cold air is moving over a warm body of water.
Cool. Awesome. Can you give me another name for steam fog?
No.
Okay. Another name for steam fog is valley fog.
I've never heard that term before.
Neither have I. Learn something new every day.
I guess so.
All right. So, what are the three types of icing?
3 types. We have rime, mixed, and clear.
Okay. So that is the three types of icing over the
Oh,
wing.
that's the 3 forms of icing.
Yep.
3 types is instrument, induction, and structural.
Cool. And what is induction icing?
Induction icing is icing in the carburetor.
Yep, carburetor icing. Very simple. Instrument icing?
That's icing over the pedostatic system.
Cool. And then, like you said, structural icing is
It's icing over the airfoil.
Yep. And then rime, clear, and mixed ice. Which is the most dangerous of those ices?
Clear is the most dangerous because it goes from the leading edge to the trailing edge, and it's sometimes not easy to see, not visible, as
Hard to
visible.
see. Yep. Cool. So we here at Skyborn for PPL fly the Piper Warrior. Can the Piper Warrior fly in icing conditions?
It cannot. Our
Why not?
aircraft cannot because it has. Uh, we only have anti-icing, not de-icing equipment.
Okay, and what is the difference between anti-icing and de-icing?
De-icing is removing ice once it's there.
Okay.
Anti-icing is trying to prevent it
From happening in the first
happening.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So what are the two anti-icing equipment that we have on the Piper Warrior?
Pitot heat, and we have carb heat.
Cool. Carburetor heat and pitot heat. Awesome. Very quick. Nice. We're done with that section. Ready to move on to airspace. All right. So what are the two types of categories of airspace?
Regulatory and non-regulatory.
Cool. Can you give me one example of non-regulatory airspace?
MOA,
MOA. What does MOA stand for?
military operating.
Areas. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what are the physical dimensions of Class A airspace? Class Alpha.
18,000 MSL to 60,000 MSL and covering
Okay.
all 48 states of the U.S. We have more than 48 states, but it covers all the states.
Okay.
I remember an old one said covers all 48 states, and I was like, but there's more than 48 states. But
Right.
I just said that. Yeah, it covers all the states of America.
Yeah. Cool. And what are the weather minimums of Class Alpha airspace?
There are none because it's IFR only.
Yep. And what is the speed limit?
I don't know, Ripley. I do know, but I don't know why I said that. I'm sorry. Take this serious. Mach 1.
Mach 1. Okay. I got that one right, so I don't know why.
She asked you that?
Yeah.
That's
I got it right.
crazy. Asking me what the speed of Class Alpha is. Like, I'm going to be in it as a private pilot.
Right. Here's another one. What's the altimeter setting required to be?
2.9 or 2.
Yep, 2.9.
Yes.
Yep. Give me 1 second. Sorry. I need some water. All right. So, Class B airspace. What is a Class B airspace?
It's a Class Bravo airspace. It's a one of the busiest airports. It's a category for the busiest airports.
Okay. Yep. So,
It's regular.
what are the lines depicted like on a VFR sectional chart?
Blue.
They're blue. Awesome. Yep. So, we'll go over the weather minimums. What are the weather minimums?
It's just 3 clear of clouds.
Okay. 3 what?
Statute mount visibility.
Okay. Cool. So what does remain clear of clouds mean?
Avoiding them, staying clear of them, don't
Okay.
go in them.
Cool. Yep. Very simple. What is the speed limit?
250 knots is the speed limit.
Okay. And then what is the speed limit under the airspace?
200.
Yep. Awesome. Class Charlie airspace. What is a Class Charlie airspace?
It's similar to a Bravo, but you just are not required as much, and it's less busy.
What do you mean you're not required as much?
You don't need ATC clearance to enter Class Charlie.
You don't need ATC clearance to enter Class Charlie. You can just fly right in.
You need two-way radio communication.
Okay, but you don't need clearance. Okay.
Sometimes it'll tell you stay out of Class Charlie, but unless they say that and they know where you are, and then, yeah.
Okay. Yep. So what are the requirements for entry other than two-way radio communication?
You need ADS-B out. You need transponder mode C.
Cool. And the weather minimums?
It's 3152. So 3 section Mach visibility, 1,000 above, 500 below, 2,000 horizontally from clouds.
Cool. And the speed limit
It's 200.
is 200. Yep. What about Class E airspace?
Class E airspace. What is
What is
required?
it? What is Class E
Class
airspace?
E, it is still regulated. It's anything depending on if you're at an airport, it could be surface to 17,999, or it could be 1,200 to 17,999. And that's the airport, or it's anything outside of the airspaces that is above 1,200.
Okay.
Best way to describe it.
Yep. So, what are the requirements to entry
There are none.
at all?
To enter Class Echo?
Yep.
Mm-mm.
None. So, if I'm cruising at 12,500 feet in Class Echo, I
If
don't
you're
need
above
entry.
10,000 MSL, you need a ADSB out and low C
And
transponder.
cool, awesome. Yep. So, yeah, and then what are the weather minimums below 10,000 and above 10,000?
Above 10,000 is 5 section Mach visibility, 1,000 below, 1,000 above, and then 1 mile horizontally.
Okay.
And then
The 3512, just normal for below. Yep.
correct.
Awesome. And then the speed limit is 200, right?
250.
250. There we go. Yep. Awesome.
Those
Yep.
are
Trying to get you on that one.
That's crazy.
All right.
Praying on my downfall.
So, what are the 7 types of special use airspaces?
Yeah. So we have the MOA, we have control firing, we have prohibited airspace, restricted airspace, alert.
Do you have an acronym for this?
I do.
What's your acronym?
MC Prawn.
Okay.
And then I'm on W right now. Warning
Okay.
areas and national security.
Cool. What is a national security area?
It's an area of high national security.
Can you give me an example of a national security area?
Washington, D.C. as a national security area.
The entirety of Washington, D.C.?
No, near the White House.
Near the White House? Or the White House?
I'm not familiar, but
Okay.
if I saw one, I'll tell you.
Sounds good. All right. So let's say that you made a little bit of a mistake. It happens to everybody, and you just whoopsie, you accidentally go inside of one of these airspaces, and then you just see a very friendly, cautious, but not very welcoming F-22 right on top of you. What do you do?
Yep, so the first thing, I panic for about 5 seconds,
Okay.
and then I realize what I'm doing. I'm like, all
Okay.
right, I'm getting intercepted. I immediately go to 121.5.
121.5.
I talk on there saying,
I'm so sorry.
yeah, probably that. And hey, I'm being intercepted. This is whatever,
What's your
sky
call
flight.
sign? Yep.
Yep. And then I actually took a picture of the signals, but I'd probably pull up that picture and then they'll just talk to me and give me a phone number to call, and I'll probably cry.
Okay. All right. So, when okay. All right. So we are on to performance and limitations. So, what are the 4 forces of flight,
Lift, weight, thrust, drag.
and what is drag?
Drag is the interference of the air over the structure of the aircraft.
Okay. Cool. How is lift created?
There are two principles. Lift is created by Bernoulli's principle and Newton's third law.
Okay. Cool. How is drag created?
By the airflow over the structure of the aircraft.
Yeah, 100%, word for word. What are the 2 types of drag?
Induced drag and parasite drag.
Cool. And what is induced drag?
Induced drag is this as the speed increases, induced drag decreases caused by. I'm just gonna end it there.
So that is a characteristic of induced drag. But what is induced drag itself?
Oh, I'm blanking out right now. Don't tell me. Induced drag is caused by thrust. Is a bifactor
It's a byproduct.
byproduct of thrust.
It is a byproduct of lift.
Lift. I was getting mixed up. Byproduct of lift. All right.
Yep. All
First
good.
wrong. Write it down. That's the first wrong. Continue.
Okay. So what is parasite drag?
That is the parasite drag is how the structure of the aircraft is essentially being pushed backwards caused by the wind.
Okay. So what if there isn't wind? What if it's a calm day? There's no wind.
Well,
is
it's
there
just
still parasite
the push.
drag?
It's the push as the aircraft is moving against air. It's pushing. The best way I describe it without giving a definition of parasite drag is if you stick your hand out the window, it's going to go back. That's parasite drag.
Well, that's a type of parasite drag. Yeah.
That is parasite drag.
So parasite drag is basically all of the types of drag that is not associated with the production of lift.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah. So as airspeed increases, parasite drag does it increase or decrease?
It increases.
Okay. So they work together. So they go together. Yep. Hand in hand. Cool. So the three types of parasite drag are form drag, skin friction drag, and interference drag. Can you tell me what interference drag is?
Yeah, that's the interference of the antenna's propeller of air going around.
That is form drag. So that was a good example of form drag.
That is form drag. Interference drag is, I do not know.
So interference drag is when two different airflows meet together, but they're not coming from the same direction, so they like interfere with each other, disrupting airflow. Yep. So when airflow, yeah. Cool. So, what determines the best glide airspeed of an airplane?
The lift/drag ratio.
Okay. Yeah. So, in the Piper Warrior, what is the best glide speed?
73.
Yep. Awesome. I don't know why. All right. So, what causes a wing to stall?
Yep. That's when you exceed the critical angle of attack, and that is the angle at which the relative wind or the chord line is no longer above the relative wind.
Okay. Yep. So the angle between the chord line of an airfoil and the relative wind. Cool. So let's say that you are flying a plane and you decided to bring your exercise equipment in the luggage rack, and you have a very heavy aft CG. Assuming that you're still in the weight and balance, of course, what can be expected for the performance of the aircraft?
Yeah, so we're gonna have a harder time or quicker time taking off, so less feet because the plane is facing like that. We're also going to have lower cruise speed, higher stall speed, and it's going to be harder to recover from a stall. And
Okay.
that's the opposite, right? For forward CG, we're going to have a higher cruise speed, lower stall speed, and easier to recover from a stall and longer takeoff distance.
All right. Yep. 100%. So, what affects the maneuvering speed of an aircraft?
The speed at which between the caused by the speed at which the lift and weight and thrust. No, I don't know actually.
So I don't know. No. So the higher the weight, the higher the angle of attack required to maintain level.
Yeah.
So that's just what affects the maneuvering speed. Also,
So that's not the you asked me for what the definition of maneuvering speed is.
I said what affects the maneuvering speed.
Oh, I guess yeah.
It's all right. So yeah, and then with a heavier aircraft, a higher AOA.
Yeah.
In cruise, the aircraft is closer to its critical AOA, causing the stall speed to increase. This all results in a higher maneuvering speed. Cool. So what are the different types of altitudes? There are 5 of them.
We have density altitude, pressure altitude, absolute indicated, and wait.
Yep.
Yeah, indicated. Why do you look at me like that? Indicated and I said absolute, indicated, and calibrated. No, that's speed. I don't know the last one. True altitude.
True altitude. What is true altitude?
True altitude is red. That's shoot. True altitude is the altitude corrected. No, I don't know.
So true altitude is the vertical distance above MSL.
Vertical distance above MSL. Okay.
Yep. So what is pressure altitude?
That is the height above the standard datum.
Standard data point. Yep. And what is absolute altitude?
That is altitude. I'm not familiar. I don't remember.
A vertical distance above AGL.
AGL and MSL. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. So what are the 4 different types of airspeeds?
Indicated, calibrated, ground speed, and true airspeed.
True. Yep. So what is ground speed?
Ground speed is the speed at which you're going on the ground.
Okay. And how do you find ground speed?
On my Garmin 650.
But if you didn't have your Garmin,
I use my E6B calculator.
Okay, so what 2 things do you have to put in to calculate your ground speed?
Distance and time.
That's ground distance. Ground speed is true airspeed corrected for wind.
True airspeed corrected for wind.
Yep. Cool. So I'm just going to list out some not acronyms, but shortened versions of what it is. So for example, VG is best glide speed. You know that, we already talked about that. A rotation speed, VR.
55.
All right, VY.
VY is 79.
What is VY?
Best angle of climb. Best rate of climb.
Best rate of climb, VX.
Best angle of climb.
Okay. In the Warrior, that's 63. VY.
79.
What is VY?
Best rate of climb. You just asked me that.
Oh, that's a different VY. My apologies. That's for a different aircraft. Never mind. Sorry about that. VNE.
Never exceed. Ours is 160.
Yep. VNO.
Normal operating, it's 126.
Cool. And VFE.
Flights extended is 103.
Cool. Awesome. How do you calculate crosswind?
How do I calculate crosswind?
Yeah, how do you calculate the crosswind component?
By using the Charm 4 flight.
Okay.
And I also have an app I use.
Cool. So there's 1 gallon of AV gas, 100 double L weigh.
6 pounds.
And why? What color is it?
It's blue.
Why is it blue?
To be able to tell the difference between water and debris. Mostly for water, though.
Cool. Explain, sorry, what are the left turning tendencies in a propeller driven aircraft?
Yep, so I use tags. We have torque, asymmetrical thrust, we have gyroscopic precession, and uh, uh, slipstream spiral.
Spiraling strips.
Strip.
Cool. Really quickly, what is asymmetrical thrust? And what is another name for it?
P factor.
P factor. What is P factor?
That is the angle of the propeller is uh, greater at the shorter end of the airfoil, at the short end of the propeller.
So the descending propeller blade is experiencing a higher angle of attack than the ascending blade. Yeah. So that's what you were saying. I was just helping you out there. But yeah, you got that 100%.
Cool.
So, what is static stability?
Let's skip over static stability.
So static stability is
I know what it is. It's just a lot. Like dynamics stability and static stability.
You can,
and then positive, neutral.
we don't have to go all over those. In
Uh,
7 words, what is static stability?
It's the ability for the aircraft to stay straight and level
Yeah, so
from disruption of
the initial response of the aircraft once it's disturbed. And what is dynamic stability?
that is the the aircraft returns to its natural position over a period of time after being disturbed.
Yeah, so how the aircraft responds or reacts to the disturbances. Cool. So we're on to operation of systems. We're at the home stretch. We're almost there. What are the primary flight controls of an airplane?
We have ailerons, rudders, and stabilator for the Piper Warrior.
Cool. So,
Okay.
secondary flight controls.
Spoilers, flaps, and trim.
Cool. We don't need to know all of this. Let's see. What kind of ailerons do we have in
Differential ailerons.
Okay, and what do differential ailerons do?
It helps counteract adverse yaw, which is a tendency for the aircraft to yaw to the opposite direction as turning.
Yep, 100%. So what kind of flaps do we have in the Piper Warrior?
We have slotted flaps.
Okay, what does that help us with?
It helps us make a steeper descent without increasing airspeed, and it also is generating lift because there is a hole between the flap and the airfoil.
Cool. What kind of engine do we have in the Piper Warrior?
We have a Lycoming 4-cylinder, 160 horsepower, direct-driven, air-cooled engine.
Naturally aspirated, horizontally opposed, 160 horsepower, 2,700 RPM. Yep. So what kind of propeller do we have?
We have a Cessna 74-inch propeller, fixed propeller.
Fixed pitch. Yep. So what about the landing gear system?
We have a fixed tricycle landing gear.
Okay, cool. And brownie points. What is the main gear PSI requirement?
4.25 plus or minus 0.5.
Say it one more time.
4.25 plus or minus 0.5.
That is the static loaded extension. What is the PSI?
Oh, 24 psi.
Yeah, awesome, cool. Yeah, so describe the fuel system in the Piper Warrior.
Yep, so we have 50 gallons total, 24 on each side, 25 on each side, 24 on each side usable.
Okay.
48 usable. And how the fuel system works is it goes through the debris filter, goes through the fuel selector, then goes through the fuel strainer, then goes through the electric pump, which then goes into the transducer, and then the carburetor.
Are you sure it's in that order?
Yep.
Close. So it goes through the fuel pump and then the strainer. Said that there are 50-gallon tanks, but you said that 48 of them are usable. What happens to the other 2 gallons?
It's just at the bottom of the wing. Can't get it.
Can't get it?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, so how much oil does the Piper Warrior's engine require?
We're required to have 8. Or no, sorry, required to have 6. Minimum 2.
Okay,
Maximum 8.
okay, so somewhere between 2 and 8?
Yep.
Cool. So, can you describe for me the electrical system in the Piper Warrior?
Yeah, we have a 24-volt battery, 28 volt alternator, 70 amp.
The alternator is 70 amp?
It's not 60.
You sure it's not 60?
I know, because remember we talked about this. It's the or the analog is 60.
Are we not talking about the analog?
Not the analog. The what's it called? The glass is 60.
The glass is 60.
Okay. Yeah, glass is 60. Ours is 70.
Okay. Cool. So we were trained on the analogs, but after that, at our school, we moved on to the glass. Cool. So what are the standard electrical accessories of the Piper Warrior?
Our lights, our Garmin, and turn coordinator. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the standard electrical accessories. So an example would be the stall horn.
Like the instruments that are electrical.
The standard electrical accessories.
Okay. I don't know what you mean by accessories.
So the electric starter, the electric fuel pump, the stall horn, the fuel quantity gauges, the digital ammeter, and the annunciator panel.
So the instruments that are used, in other terms, I could have named that as.
Okay, sorry.
When I said landing lights, you said no.
Landing lights isn't an instrument.
No, but then I asked instrument.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Okay. Sorry, yeah. Okay, so what is the electrical lighting system?
That's gonna be our landing lights, anti-collision lights, position lights, and I think that's it.
2 more.
If we have recognition lights and our nav lights.
What about the stuff inside of the plane?
I mean, the little dimmer lights as well.
The instrument lighting, yep. And then the last one?
The headlight.
The cabin dome light is what you mean, right?
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. So,
So specific.
It's just what it says, man.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
Yeah, so can you describe for me the pedostatic system of the aircraft?
Yeah, would you like me to describe the instruments or how it works?
What is the pedostatic system of the aircraft?
It's on our left wing. It's how we get our airspeed indicator. It uses ram air to tell us our airspeed.
Okay.
And then the static system, that's the pedo. And then the static system is used by our altimeter and our vertical speed indicator, and that uses the outside and inside pressure of the aircraft to determine if we're in a climb or what our altimeter is saying.
So let's say that the pitot tube is blocked, but the drain hole is open. What is going to happen to our pedostatic instruments?
The airspeed indicator is going to read 0,
Mm-hmm.
and the others are not affected.
Perfect. Yeah, that was a pretty difficult question. Nailed it. Let's see. So, can you describe for me the gyroscopic system of an aircraft?
Yeah, it is essentially a gyro that is air being constantly blown. It uses 2 rules. It uses gyroscopic precession and rigidity in space. And gyroscopic precession is essentially why our heading indicator. The definition of it is that the instrument moves from its original position over time. And then rigidity in space is essentially the gyroscope, the air blowing on the gyroscope, the gyro, and it stays straight and level while the aircraft is in motion.
Okay, so just to clarify, the tendency of a gyroscopic precession causes as an effect. No, yeah. Sorry. So the gyroscopic precession causes the tendency of the heading indicator to slowly drift away from its original position.
Those are the two principles of a gyroscopic. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So last but not least, we have human factors. This should be pretty quick.
All right.
So, can you tell me what um, hymenic hypoxia is?
Hymenic hypoxia is the lack of oxygen through the blood caused by carbon monoxide.
Carbon monoxide poisoning, 100%. So, what are the common symptoms of hypoxia?
Dizziness, lightheadedness. That's like the big ones.
Okay. Can I get two more?
No.
No? Okay.
Fingertips feel numb.
Tingling sensations?
And
Increased reaction time, confusion, euphoria, headache, stuff like that. Yep. So, what is hyperventilation?
that is essentially when someone is breathing very fast and heavily, and that's normally caused by stress or nervousness.
Okay. What is
Increased
your
nitrogen.
what is your body lacking when it starts to
Oxygen
hyperventilate? It's
or
oxygen.
nitrogen.
It's nitrogen.
Yeah.
It's carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide. I don't know where I got nitrogen from.
It's all good. Yeah, I'm not
Carbon
quite sure where you
dioxide.
got nitrogen. No, because yeah. Okay, this has something else on here that's wrong. It says that carbon dioxide is okay. Yep. So sorry. I'm trying to read through this to see if I can get a question out of all of this nonsense. So can you describe for me the in-flight middle ear and sinus problems?
In-flight middle ear sinus problems. If you have a clogged nose, it's going to mess with you when you increase altitude due to pressure.
Okay.
Your ears are going to pop.
Yeah, sorry, kind of a bad question, but that is correct. So, just one sentence. What is spatial disorientation?
It's when a pilot can no longer see in a 3 dimension.
Yep, three-dimensional position. Cool. How would you recover from spatial disorientation?
Scan and trust your instruments.
Okay, cool. Yep. So let's say that you are flying and you realize that you are lost. You cannot see anything on the Garmin. You don't know where you are. What do you do?
Yep. First circle, because if you keep going, you're just gonna still be lost. So first circle, I climb. Higher altitude, you can see more.
Okay.
I conserve my fuel depending on how far I've traveled and how much fuel I've used. So lean the mixture. I communicate. I can look at my iPad where I'm at. I can look on the Garmin to see what the nearest airport is if it's working, and or I could talk to flight following and just say, "Hey, I'm lost." If I'm with flight following, and then confess, "All right, I'm lost."
Cool. Yep. And then hopefully you're going to be able to find your way from there. So, how can we determine as pilots if we are physically safe to fly?
My frat.
Your frat.
Yeah, no,
So
I'm just
let's
kidding.
say that.
We use I'm safe, so we
Okay.
go through illness, medication, stress, alcohol, fatigue, and eating and drinking.
Okay. Do you have any personal minimums for any of those things?
Alcohol, 24 hours. Illness, depending on how ill I am, it depends. Medication, I don't take medication. Stress, as long as I'm not stressed out, then I'll fly.
Okay.
Fatigue, yeah. Yeah, so sure, I do sometimes.
Okay, cool. So, this one is pretty important. So I'm just going to ask you to go through all of them. Can you give me the different types of in-flight illusions?
Yep. We have inversion,
Version.
Coriolis, elevator, false horizon, leans, autokinesis, graveyard spiral, and slipstream or Somotogravic.
Somotographic illusion. Cool. All right, I'm only going to ask you two. What are leans?
I don't know.
So leans are an abrupt recovery from a roll, can mislead the pilot into thinking that the aircraft is in a turn into the opposite direction. Do you know the inversion illusion?
It's when you're making abrupt changes to your head and it makes you feel like you're in unusual attitude.
Yeah, right. So you're an abrupt change from a climb to straight and level can make you feel like you're tumbling backwards. Um, okay, cool. All right, and last question for you: how are you allowed to scuba dive after? Um, are you allowed to scuba dive and fly a plane?
It has to be, I use the rule of thumb of 24 hours anytime I scuba dive. But if you're above 8,000 or if you're below 8,000 MSL and you're in uncontrolled, it's 12 hours, controlled is 24 hours. And then if you're going above 8,000 MSL, it's 24 hours.
Cool. Yep, 100%. Let's see. I think
I think
that
we're
is
done.
all of the questions.